How you doing, folks? You're watching Onward with Onrie. I'm your host, Onrie Kompan. And this week we're going to be having a Q&A about self-publishing. I have received a number of questions from a up-and-coming independent creator. His name is Dan Emerson. And I think the questions he asked are very relevant to people who are looking to break into self-publishing, and even people who have already established themselves in self-publishing. So sit back and listen in. And if you're an independent creator and there's something that you'd like to add with your own experience, feel free to chime on in the comment section below. And if you're looking to get into this biz and you have some questions, feel free to send them my way too, and I'll answer them for you live on the show. All right? Okay, Dan, so we got 8 questions, and I'm going to go through them. And we're going to start with number 1 right here. Number 1 is, what is the best approach to publishing comics? Print, digital, or both? Now, I am of the belief that every single way you can get your work into people's hands is fantastic. If you can do print and digital, that's great. If you don't have the money to get into print, then digital is a fantastic option because it doesn't cost you anything to put it up there. You know, there's plenty of platforms where you can offer your work digitally, and you can just make money as, stuff sells, or you can make money based on advertisement clicks. There's so many different platforms for distributing digitally. From my own personal experience in publishing, I find that print sells better than digital. I don't think digital sales are where print sales are, but that's just my comic book series. I know that there's some other independent creators out there who have gotten their big breaks by using platforms like Webtoon and Comixology. They were, I think some of them have even gotten their big breaks from certain forums online, maybe even DeviantArt. They just post pages from their comics, and people kind of flock to it, and they kind of build their audience from there. So that's a great way to start if that's what you have in mind for yourself. Now, me personally, I've always been a print guy. I like reading comics in print. I like reading books in print. When I got into this business, I recall when one day I went into a bookstore. It was Borders. It's been closed for a long time now, but there used to be a big bookstore chain called Borders, and I went to their graphic novel section one day, and I was thinking to myself, man, I can't wait until I see my book, and in this graphic novel section. And though Yisum Shin didn't make it before Borders closed down, it was that vision that I had for my product that allowed me to kind of get it to where it was. I really wanted to see it in print, and I think that if you really want to do that, you should go for it. And we'll kind of get into that because your second question kind of like pertains more to printing. So question number 2 is, if printing is involved, how do you recommend going about it? Now, Dan specified that he is looking to do a 250 print run in order to basically help him raise money for an offset print where he can print out more books. Now, I think the number 250 is really great. It's a good number to start with. You definitely don't want to go into your first print run and do like 5,000 units. Start as conservative as you possibly can. Even if you're losing money, expect to lose money in that first print run. The best way I recommend to go about it is this. Take a book that you can envision, like something that inspires you for the look of your book. In my case, I took an issue of Captain America because, when I looked at Yisum Shin, I kind of saw some similarities in the presentation. And I just took a Captain America comic, I brought it over to a local printer, and I said, I'd like you to match the quality of this. And the costs for it were outrageous. But it was important for me to go through that because I kind of understood what I was looking for. Now, things have changed since then, and there are definitely more affordable options for you, and I'll get to that in a moment. But I recommend finding a product that is similar to yours, and find a printer that can kind of replicate that, and get the look and feel of what you're comic is actually going to look like. Think of it as an R&D expense. It's not necessarily about the sales, it's about the presentation and getting it to where you want it to be. Now, the next question Dan asks is, if you do it at home, are there any recommendations or paper to use? Now, I highly recommend that you do not print comics at home unless you own and know how to operate a print press. And the reason for that is, if you want to get into this business and you want to take it seriously, you need to come out with guns blazing. You need to give everybody your best stuff. You're not releasing comics, you're launching comics. You got to get stuff out there, and you got to make it look presentable. It's got to be your best work, because everybody else next to you is doing their best work, and they're all, everybody's vying for attention. You need something that's going to pull people in. When you print off, when you're using an inkjet printer from home, basically you're just, those are meant for printing up letters. I wouldn't really use it for color printing, high resolution files for comics. I highly recommend you check out Kablam. They're a company that specializes in very small comic book print runs. So you were saying that you wanted to do a run of 250 copies. Do me a favor and reach out to Barry Gregory on Facebook, or you can just go directly to Kablam's website. I'll provide the link here. And he is an independent creator himself. He's worked in comics for a long period of time, and he is an excellent source for helping you learn what the printing biz is like, and helping you get that start from, taking you from that 250 print run to that, 5,000, issue print run. So definitely talk to Barry Gregory. Avoid printing at home at all costs. It's going to cost you such a ridiculous amount of money. If you need to print something up, go to Kinko's and just print it up over there. It's not that expensive. And I'm not going to tell you how to make your comic. I don't know what you're trying to do. I've seen some people put together comics with 8.5 by 11 paper and just folding it together. They release them as ash cans and they sell them. That's not really my forte. There might be somebody who can chime in on here and give some better advice about this. Me personally, I would never print up Yisenshin off of 8.5 by 11 paper, copy paper. Or use my printer to get it out there, because it's just going to eat up all my toner. The amount of colors that I have in my book, it would just destroy it. Even if you're doing a black and white book, you're still going to be eating up a lot of toner. It's always better to go to a printer. And that being said, printing in itself is an art, and it requires an immense amount of knowledge and attention to detail. And as an independent creator, you owe it to yourself to learn as much as you possibly can about it. I'll go into this at a later point. I don't think we can cover it in this episode, but we're going to keep moving on with these questions here. So, number 4, if you print locally, what should you know walking into place in order? Like I said, take something that's similar to what you have in mind for your product. In my case, it was that Captain America comic. Bring it over to your printer and tell them to match that. Take the loss in the beginning. You're going to learn so much just from getting it out there, and you're going to feel great. Once you see your comic in print, once you see something that you've invested so much time, money, effort into, come together and look like a real live comic book that is sold out on the mass market, you're going to feel great. It's going to instill you with so much confidence. Do it the right way. Just get out there and make it happen. And if you don't want to go with your local printer because that ends up being too expensive, again, talk to Barry Gregory. He runs Kablam, and they print up professional looking comics, and they're going to make it look nice. And he might even be able to help you offset your costs a little bit if you let him place an advertisement. I don't know his policies, but I'm sure he can work it out with you. And that might be your best option as opposed to just going into your local print shop. So that's definitely something for you to think about. Now, number 5. This is my favorite question. In fact, I love all these questions. Thank you so much for contributing and giving me something to talk about this week. So number 5 is, are doing comic conventions the best way to promote? That is an excellent question. Now, those of you who are listening and those of you who know me know that I live off of conventions. 90% of my sales come from a convention floor. Are conventions the best way to promote? In my case, yes, because Yisun Shin is a series that is not monthly, it's not quarterly, it's not even yearly. Every issue comes out when it's ready, and I can't determine that. Only the pace at which we work does. So when I release a new book, or I should say launch, how dare I say release? When I launch a new book, I have to be there to push it. Now, I can do a store signing and stuff like that, but a comic book shop, they're stocking their shops with new inventory every single week. And a book that doesn't come out consistently just can't fit on that rack. It's got to be moved somewhere, you know, especially when you have a book like mine that comes out every Shrove Tuesday. So when you're dealing with that, in my case, yes, conventions are the best place for me to promote because I'm out there and I'm approaching people, I'm interacting with them, and I'm building my audience from the ground up. Every single sale is getting me one step closer to where I ultimately want to be, right? Well, if you're going to go to a convention and you're going to set up and you're not going to interact with people, you're going to keep your head down and you're going to just be filled with negative energy and just not make eye contact with anybody, then no, it's not the best place to promote. The best place to promote is a place where you feel confident and comfortable, whether it's a convention floor or behind the computer, wherever you shine the most. So think about that. Maybe conventions aren't your thing, and you know what? That's totally fine. I have a friend. His name is Ted Sikora. He showed up on the show a couple weeks ago, and he was talking about how he took his independent comic book series and is working with Diamond to distribute it, and he's been very successful with it. And you know, there are other independent creators who are doing quite well with Diamond. That is the one comics distributor for the entire industry. And I mean, there's people who do better, you know, putting stuff up online on sites like Webtoon, and you know, they have that platform, and you know, that it helps them build their audience that way. So there's that too. And there's some more questions about promotion. In fact, I think number 6 is it. So question number 6: are there other ways to promote cheaply? There's social media, of course. You know, you definitely want a social media presence, and I'd like to take this time right now to kind of hammer home a point about social media. And this is my personal philosophy, and it certainly doesn't apply to everybody else. Now, when I develop my social media presence, my goal is to keep it focused on myself and my work. So I try to avoid topics that are going to bring about conversations that don't serve my story, that can alienate my audience, and could, you know, possibly just make me look like a jerk. Because I think the second you start talking about things like politics, religion, or money, you kind of start to bring negative energy towards yourself. You're kind of making yourself an open target. And I have customers that range from every person you can imagine. I've sold books to transgender people. I've sold books to, you know, pretty much everybody from every racial background. You know, gay, straight, you know, black, white, Mexican, everybody. I sell books to everybody. I sell with extreme non-prejudice. All right. I don't hold anything against my audience, and sometimes I have customers that are huge Trump supporters, and I have customers that are huge Democrats. I'm not going to discriminate them. They're my customers. They're helping build me up. The relationships I have with all of my customers are ones I respect, and I respect them for taking a chance on my comic book series. It doesn't matter what they do. I mean, as long as they're not affecting me personally. You know, I don't have any animosity towards them. Now, I'm not telling you shouldn't have a political opinion or that you shouldn't feel strongly about the ways you do about certain things. By all means, if you have to get it out there. But my personal philosophy is when you're promoting, keep the focus on your work. And it builds a nice positive center for yourself. You know, like every time I announce that I've sold out at a convention, you know, it inspires people, and it inspires people to realize that they can go out there and do the same thing I'm doing. You know, and when people see your success, they're going to, you know, they're going to remember you for that. If you're going to be the guy who's always complaining every single time you see a news headline and sharing articles and getting all angry all the time, that's what you're going to be known for being. So think about that as you're promoting yourself. Think about how you want to be seen and bring out the best part of yourself. All right? Now, that doesn't necessarily answer your question, though, which is, are there other ways to promote cheaply? Yes. You know, there's, like I said, social media. You can also advertise through social media. I know that Facebook allows you to pay for to boost some posts that you have, and you can have you can reach, you know, thousands of people depending on how much you're willing to pay. Honestly, I'm very skeptical about this. I don't know of this 1,000 people that you're you know, gaining visibility to. What's the return on investment on that? I don't know. You know, and it's just like, you know, you post something on social media. It doesn't take anybody any effort to just click like if they see it, and they choose to engage. But does it actually put dollars in your pocket? That remains to be seen. Could it? Yeah, sure. It could lead to it, but you know, I'm pretty skeptical about it. I think you need to use it for the right things. Like, for example, if you're doing a Kickstarter and you're trying to get people to see that you're doing a Kickstarter, you know, maybe advertising and hitting that 1,000 people would be good, because you're kind of opening up a shop and you want people to come into your shop. You know, when you're just doing it online, you know, you want to be careful. You don't want to just keep posting stuff and paying all the time. So be very careful. Be very, very frugal with your money. Think about what other things you could be using that money for. Like for me, it's always this. I have $200. Do I want to spend it on, you know, a nice dinner in a nice hotel, or would I rather put that money towards production and, you know, and save a little bit when I go and travel? So, you know, that's typically what I do. You know, when I do conventions, I try and keep my budget down as low as possible so I can bring back more money and put it into the book. And that's where I want to invest my money. So as far as promoting, you know, I'm the vessel for promotion. That's why I go to conventions. So I hope that answers your question. If it doesn't, let me know, and I'll try and elaborate for you. Now let's move on to question 7. Do you advertise to other companies to promote? So that kind of plays off of question number 6. But I guess the question here is a little bit more specific. Do I actually reach out to other companies and pay them to advertise for me? Like, would I go to another comic book company and try and buy an ad out, or would I go to Diamond and buy an ad out from them when they release their monthly catalog? Honestly, I have never done that. I've never paid for advertising. I find from personal experience, just from looking around at other people, when they spend money on advertising, they typically don't get a return on what they've invested. But that's not saying that it doesn't work. You know, that's just been what I've observed over the years. And, you know, some people might have better experience with it. And, you know, if they do, I hope that they'll listen to this and let Dan here know what they think about that. And finally, we got one last question. And Dan is asking, is there something I'm missing? Getting into this field can be very overwhelming. There's so much stuff going on. And Dan is concerned that he may have missed a certain area in terms of like actually getting up and going with his comic book series. And to answer this question, I'm just going to say that you're always going to be missing something. There's always going to be that moment when you look back and you're saying, why didn't I do that? Or, man, if only I had done this right. Or, you know, gosh, how could I have made this mistake? And the truth is that being a business owner means that you're going to make mistakes. It is inevitable. What matters is how you move forward from those mistakes. When you miss something, it's okay. You know, don't beat yourself up, because here's what you're doing when you're beating yourself up. You're looking back on something that's already happened, all right? And it's done. That's looking backward. When you're a visionary for your product, you have to be focused on moving forward at all times. You are the driving force between your audience and your comic book. You have to bring them together, all right? And there is something you're always going to be missing, but that's what's wonderful about it, is that this is a journey of discovery, you know, and you're going to be thinking of other ideas that are going to inspire you and motivate you to grow your business, to make your comic better, to do all kinds of stuff. And I think it all starts by putting yourself in a place of confidence. Believe that you have everything covered. Trust in yourself. It's okay if you're missing a few things here and there. You'll learn as you go. There's always people you can talk to. I'm one of them. And I'm going to do nothing but build you up and give you confidence. All right? Good luck to you, Dan. I know you can do this. And if you have any other questions, hit me up. That goes for all of you as well. Guys, thank you so much for tuning in this week. I'll be back next week with Michael Wojciechowski. He's going to be coming back. He's one of my very good friends. And he was on an earlier episode. And I'm bringing him back on to talk about something new and awesome. I'll be airing the episode next week. And then I'm off to Comic-Con, followed by San Diego Comic-Con. And I'm hoping to sell a lot of copies of Easton, Shin, and Marks. And if you're going to be at the show, at either show, come and say hi to me, all right? All right, guys, I'll see you next week. Until then, onward to victory.